Yes, love's a secret weapon. Yeah!
Hi, I'm Donna Loren.
And I'm Dr. Adam Gerace.
And you are listening to Love's a Secret Weapon podcast.
Chapter 14, So Do the Zonk.
Part 2.
The post-Woodstock and Watergate years, the macrocosm of what was going on all around me, really set the tone of the microcosm of my world. Woodstock was symbolic of idealism. 3 days, 500,000 people. Music was the universal language. Through rain and mud, camping out, and substandard living conditions, there was a positive mood and very little traumatic incidents. Pretty good statistics for 500,000 people gathering in one place. Yes, there was substance abuse, and perhaps some of the performers were more intoxicated than anyone in the audience. But Woodstock was so symbolic of what the flower children were setting the bar for that somehow we would focus more on love than hate. Only a few short years later, and the corruption of Watergate unearthed a completely unprincipled person who had to resign shamefully from being our president. My experience of Kennedy's assassination in Dallas impacted me the same way Watergate impacted my husband. Watergate left the whole country in a state of betrayal. There was an atmosphere in America of this betrayal, and inside my home and inside my heart, there was a direct correlation of that feeling. I started hearing the word apathy. Politically, this country went into what we call the silent majority, where the assassinations of the two Kennedy brothers and Martin Luther King, the betrayal of Nixon, and the abandonment and neglect of soldiers that were coming back from Vietnam set a mood in this country of apathy. Even more than apathy was a lack of empowerment. You're kidding yourself if you think that whatever is going on inside you isn't directly affected by everything that's going on around you. It's the big picture. I always felt a conflict in my life. There were so many unknowns. On the surface, it appeared, what could possibly be wrong? But that was a very thin veneer, because I was struggling with many subliminal issues that were keeping me depressed. I had a very difficult time trusting myself, which constantly left me in a state of chaos and confusion. This lack of trust created an environment where I felt nobody trusted me. There were some exceptions. My friends Evelyn and Lynn were very compassionate women, and I always felt safe with them. In general, I began hiding from criticism. Communication had broken down dramatically with my parents, so I wouldn't turn to them. My husband was completely immersed in his career and very absent in my life. It was very, very lonely. I turned to my piano and music to express my emotions, frustrations, and the mystery of what was causing my inner turmoil. There was a room at the end of the house that I shared with Lenny's hobby of building model airplanes. It gave me a space of my own. A hallway leading to it essentially made it feel detached from the rest of the house. It was a multi-purpose room. I had my upright piano in it, which didn't take up too much space. A hardwood floor served as a dance area, adjacent to the wall-to-wall mirrors and ballet bar that I had installed. I've always been an early riser, and so in the wee hours of the morning, I would venture to this sanctuary and have complete privacy, as well as not disturb anyone while they were sleeping. In these desperate times, I resorted to getting high and singing my lungs out. In this altered state of mind, I felt extremely creative started writing many songs, unlike the experience I had when I was only 14 and told to write songs by my parents. Their idea was to have B-sides of my records written by me to cash in on writing credit. Another manipulation by them that was the furthest thing from any inspiration. All the chaos and confusion came out in lyrics and music while I spent my private time in the back room of my house. Each time a new song would come, and they would come fast and furious, I had a great sense of fulfillment. I'd try to gauge this pleasurable time so that I wouldn't have to overcompensate when it came to the duties of being wife and mother.
Just can't treat me this way, and then he told me he would never go away. So what's the matter? Tell me you love me, then we can make it work. I say now, darling, so much time has drifted by. Can you and we'll give it one more try. I'd love to hear you, but you must touch me, then we can work it out. Listening to the one you love can be wonderful.
When my family awoke several hours later, amazingly, I felt fully functional, making everyone their breakfast and getting them dressed for the day. But I failed on many levels when my emotions got the best of me. Literally, I was raising my children as a single parent because of their father's devotion to his career. My dear friend Lynn was the saving grace in this scenario. For many years, she would join our family table for dinner and spend the evening with the children and me. Even with my lifelong friend, who was extremely close to my family and me at the time, I couldn't really communicate about my feelings because everything appeared to be so abundant and fulfilling on the surface. We were two lonely women doing the grown-up version of playing house with two beautiful dolls. The feeling of abandonment was overwhelming. I tended to want my children near me and kept them home from school to fill the void in my life. This pattern of behavior I felt was born from the pressure that I had to enroll my kids in school at a very young age. My first child was 2.9 years, and my second was 2.7. In my world, when a child was born, they were put on a waiting list for the best schools and expected to start as soon as they were out of diapers. My instinct of wanting to be a stay-at-home mom was overshadowed by the expectations that were all around me. I tried to accommodate the wishes of my husband and our social circle. Certainly, integrating your child into a place where they can meet and make friends is a positive thing. But their exposure to other kids inevitably ended in picking up some cold or virus. I never wanted to give my kids antibiotics. Their father did. which always created a lot of tension when I kept them home for longer periods until they were well enough to go back to school. I had a beautiful yard for them to play in, and I loved to stay home and play with them, feed them, and take care of them. I never objected to having my children's friends over. In fact, I loved it. Who wrote the book on parenting? You learn it as you go along. Some things you do right, some things you get wrong. In reference to my children's education, there is a direct correlation to my own experience of never having school or education being important. The way I was raised, my education was not a priority. I'm a product of my environment. I'm certainly not against learning. I'm a huge fan of learning and self-taught. But I am anti-establishment. The 70s gave birth to the self-help era, a counterculture reaction to the politics of the time. I had already turned to Eastern philosophy, incorporating Tai Chi and acupuncture into my lifestyle. Lo and behold, my new inner and outer strength led to my third child, my beautiful Katie. At 31, after having two children who were nearly 10 and 7 years of age, it was almost like starting all over. In the late 60s and early 70s, the concept of population control pervaded my mind. Only 2 children per household would maintain a healthy growth in population for the future generation. What about my friends with no children, or only 1? That was part of my rationalization for wanting a third. I was already in love with the new life growing inside me. And around the 2-month mark, my nausea was slight and my husband's work schedule had a break. We decided to take a little family vacation to Lake Tahoe.
I'm really interested, Donna, in this idea, and there's a lot to talk about with this latest reading from the manuscript. But particularly when you talk about many unknowns in this time in your life, I'm interested in just unpacking that one a little bit more.
Yes. Oh gosh, Dr. Adam, you have studied psychology and practiced psychology for what, a couple of decades already.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me anyway, in my long life, my experience with being in the unknown in the past, especially when I was young, in my 20s and early 30s, the unknown was this sense of uncertainty. And we created, all kinds of emotional reactions like frustration and anxiety and anger. And, anger especially, I never could put my finger on what was literally causing it. Like there was an undercurrent. Maybe things were happening that you could, say, okay, someone did this and it created a reaction and I got angry. But no, something was welling up inside me and I couldn't really understand why I was going into this place of anger. And it was very, very confusing for me. But later on, what I've come to understand, and of course, in hindsight, we all wish we knew, what we know now.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
with the coronavirus and the variants and how long it's been going on now for just about 2 years, when it started, I really felt like the rug was pulled out from under me.
Yeah.
As maybe you did, or, maybe people that you've spoken to, where you really feel like you're in the unknown.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's frightening and, and it creates this isolation and feeling like you're alone. And so what I did 2 years ago was pick up a book that was not written by Krishnamurti, who was an Indian philosopher, Eastern Indian philosopher. Very, very interesting person who was actually discovered in India when he was a very young lad
Mm-hmm.
for his wisdom, and then cultivated into actually a center in England as well as in California, in Ojai, California, where he has a school to this day. He's no longer with us, but
Mm-hmm.
I think since the mid 80s. But his school is still alive and well. And whenever he spoke, which he did quite often, his speakings were recorded. And from those recordings, there were books written. Like, he never, ever wrote a book.
Mm.
So all of the books come from his stream of consciousness.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he started talking about the unknown.
Mm.
And talk about synchronicity, when you need something and you ask the heavens, or maybe you get angry and you act out, but you're asking for some answer.
Mm.
And what I interpreted from what he said was that when you're in the unknown, you're in a place to expand into the universe.
Mm.
And like we talk about a lot, and trust that there is a higher power that's guiding you, and that when you literally drop to your knees and feel humbled by a situation, it could be a marriage, it could be any relationships, it can be all kinds of different, now we have this illness and war and whatever, that comes along that creates a climate of uncertainty.
Yeah, yeah.
So I equated the unknown with trust. Trust in a way that I really hadn't consciously experienced daily basis. In fact, hourly, just feeling so humbled and connected to whatever power is out there. Put a name on it, call it God, call it the creator, call it spirit, call it Buddha, I don't know, call it whatever, call it the stars, call it whatever you want to call it. There's something out there that's more powerful than you, and it requires trust especially when you're in that unknown environment.
Yeah.
And then it lingers and you think, well, it teaches you patience. It depends on how you act out, it can create a lack of patience, which, could be really difficult and destructive.
Yeah, for sure. And, at this, particularly looking at it now and in what's going on now, but also paralleling what was happening, back then in your life as well, I think there are those parallels with a lot of unrest. I think the virus is bringing a lot of people together, but there are divisions as well. And if we look at that early part of the 70s, coming out of the 60s, coming out of that sort of revolution and into this more, I think what you call this more apathetic atmosphere, like you say, it kind of mirrors everyone's individual lives as well as what's going on in the bigger world, because it is all connected.
Yeah. Gosh, I heard a definition of depression. And you can corroborate this. Depression is when you don't want to feel something. So you're shielding yourself from feeling something. And that apathy that you're speaking of, that I, started hearing about in the early 70s after the iconic deaths of the Kennedys and Martin Luther King and et cetera. And then the disgrace of Nixon, created an atmosphere where, a lot of hopefulness was it really enshrouded in shadow and darkness. And when you don't want to feel that, I mean, if in my world, the hopefulness was so predominant in the
Mm,
60s,
mm,
and maybe personally, I have some capacity for resilience that, made me feel like I could keep bouncing back from each situation that was occurring,
yeah.
on a large, on the world, on a global level, on the world stage, or just in my own little world. But you reach a threshold, right?
Mm,
and it becomes painful, and so yeah, you enter into not just a drug related kind of
mm,
social environment where it's accepted that okay, if you want to maintain this hopefulness, you might want to get high on a
mm,
good glass of wine,
mm.
or maybe some nice marijuana or something like that, which wasn't seen as nice then, but it
No.
is now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't about an escape. It was about an enhancement, and also to put you in a place of either feeling creative or actually becoming more creative, drawing something
Mm,
out of you that maybe you would have been inhibited by, for some reason,
mm,
but that depression of not wanting to feel, it's like you get slapped down. Well, what I'm trying to correlate is that sense of depression and the lack of hope, this feeling of hopelessness, in the 70s, when that word apathy became so
mm,
prominent.
mm. Yeah, and it's interesting what you say as well about this idea of being able to express oneself, even when you are in confusion or being unsure, and certainly using a method to try to gain some clarity. And in your case, it was writing songs and performing privately songs, and even within that turmoil and that confusion of trying to figure out sort of what was going on, um, I guess you still were progressing in the sense that you talk about, whereas songwriting had always been approached something differently. It was about trying to write a B side and to have a hit, or at least to have the royalties from a particular song that you'd written. This time it was more about expression rather than a different approach.
Which I'm
Mm,
sure I'm sure anyone listening would agree that, when you get into a creative space, no matter what it is, I mean, it can be a mechanic fixing a car. I mean, if you're in a space where you are in the present, you are
mm,
in the now, and you are at one with whatever you're doing, you're pretty happy. you
mm,
know it's like you are living your life in the moment, in the now state of mind, rather than reflecting, which we do a lot, but
mm,
hopefully, my objective with you is to observe the past with present eyes,
mm,
so that, I can learn, and, you can learn, and we can all learn together,
mm.
from the past, but not dwell in the past.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably a good indication of the person that we're speaking with, today, that we speak a lot, and we'll introduce who it is soon, but we speak a lot about the past and both of your shared history. But this person and you and hopefully are also got an eye for what we're doing now, and it's not just about going back and looking back in the past. Like they say, it's okay to look back, but don't stare. It's really about looking back, but also constantly moving forward, and being in the present. So not being too focused on just where we're going as well, but also being in the present. And I think what we're talking about now really speaks to the conversation we had with our very special guest. Would you like to tell our listeners who this is?
Oh, yes. Well, a very sweet woman. Oh, my goodness. She is a charming, beautiful Bobbie Shaw Chance, whom, I met on the Beach Party movies. And, among many of the cast, and there were so many, beach boys and beach girls and comedians and actors and performers. She stood out as being very genuine and approachable. And I just loved hearing her, her retrospective of the experiences she had on set, which led to what she does in the moment today with her son in approaching acting for serious young people who would love to see their name in lights one day, but also are just pursuing the art of being able to tell a story and authentically. So, yes, let's listen to Bobbie.
Beach blanket bingo. Beach blanket bingo. Beach blanket bingo. That's the name of the game. Bingo!
It's a beach party reunion today, and Donna and I are so pleased to welcome Bobbie Shaw Chance to our podcast. How are you today, Bobbie?
Hello from usually sunny, but today raining California.
Yes, it never rains in California, does it?
Yeah, I heard that song somewhere. Anyway, Donna Loren is just one of my absolutely favorite people. I have to tell you that. And so brilliantly talented. No, let me say it. Brilliantly talented singer. And I always loved your sound and your voice. And I just want you to know that if I never told you.
I want to just give you a virtual hug and a big kiss on both cheeks. Thank you so much, sweetheart.
Well, it's true. You don't know me very well. We worked together in several films, but I don't lie. I call it like it is, and it's gotten me in a lot of trouble over the years.
Tell us all about that. We want to know all the trouble.
I mean, with a lot of celebrities that I've coached and worked with over the years, not an easy thing. But let's go back. Let's reminisce. Shall we do that? Because I really don't hardly ever look back in the rearview mirror. It's just not my...
Well, this will be
Shall we start with beach blanket? Yeah. Let's start with beach blanket bingo.
Wow. Amazing for me because I was 17 and got to be Buster Keaton's sidekick.
Yeah.
And to me, he was just an adorable, sweet, loving old man who took me under his wing and kind of protected me. I had no idea until many, many years later that he was like the genius of all comics. I mean, just the genius. And he literally taught me comedy. We would have lunch in his dressing room every day, and his wife would bring him lunch and call him sir.
Oh my goodness.
And I said, Buster, why is she calling you sir? And he said, I trained her that way.
Oh.
A silent film star trains.
There you go. He was just and we had so much fun on the set, didn't we? I mean, it was really...
yes. Amazing. Amazing on the set and also on location.
On location. That was very crazy for me because I lived in Malibu and I had to be picked up by limousine in the morning and driven, who knows where, to Raleigh Studios in Hollywood, and then driven to the beach, Leo Carrillo Beach. And,
yes.
And then back to Raleigh Studio and then back to Malibu. It was very, very crazy, but it was so much fun. We had a good time. It was very lighthearted, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. And, I must say that when Dr. Adam visited me in 2011,
that's right.
we took a drive out to see where some of the films were made, and we made it out to Leo Carrillo Beach. And
Yeah, really something.
so
It's
lots of memories.
a very interesting thing. I was asked to talk at Jack Gilardi, who was my agent, who passed away last year, and I was asked to make a speech at his memorial. And the other side of all that lightheartedness, it was a very wild time. I remember, Donna, I don't think you were with us. We went down to Texas and we did a tour of 14 cities in 19 days, which for a 17-year-old, 18-year-old, it's not a big deal. But I remember going into a television station with some of the cast members, and the bathroom said white only. Okay. This curiosity and I'm always been sort of an apolitical person, and I remember all they wanted to talk about was my mink bikini.
Yeah, of course.
And what it was like working with Annette. Did you get along with her, and gossipy stuff, which bored the shit out of me, excuse my French. So I said to them, well, I have a question for you. Why does the bathroom, and I didn't know about this. Why does the bathroom say white only? And they said, we're going to take a break now. And we went to commercial, and they whisked me back into the limousine back to the hotel. And I never forgot that.
Yeah, Bobbie, may I share with you? When you were on tour for those films, I did them occasionally, but I was working for Dr. Pepper primarily in the South and Midwest, and I encountered the same signs on bathroom doors, on drinking fountains.
Did it blow your mind? Did you say something?
Oh, it made me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, I really, it just offended me greatly. And I remember talking about it at Jack Gilardi's memorial. And all of ICM was there, all the top agents in Hollywood, and a lot of celebrities were there. And I brought it up, and I said, what was the coolest thing about the whole thing is that Jack I called him from the hotel, and Jack, because I was really upset, and he just sort of made the whole thing better and explained it to me, because I really didn't get it. I knew something was wrong. Something was wrong there.
Because in California, we didn't have that segregation issue.
Exactly.
There might have been some prejudice, but it wasn't as severe as in the South. I mean, we were at a time of the civil rights movement.
Right.
That's what we experienced firsthand.
That's right. And it was, it was the other side of. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we also brought the beach, we brought the ocean to people in the Midwest and the South that had never seen the California coastline.
That's right, exactly. And it was also the cool thing about it now, because Frankie was at Jack's memorial, Frankie Avalon, and I said, Frankie, why don't we, whoever's left, and blessed, why don't we do a thing about the beach party movies, which changed everything? And he said he would love to do it.
Oh, beautiful.
Awesome. So,
and I think that might be something really, really awesome to do.
I would love to sing the songs that I actually, Love's a Secret Weapon comes from a song that I sang in Bikini Beach.
In Bikini Beach. Oh my God, that's great. Which is before I got signed on. That was before.
Your first one was Pajama Party, wasn't it?
It's Pajama.
That's right.
Elsa Lanchester and Buster and
Jody?
Pajama Party in a Haunted House was with Basil Rathbone and Boris Karloff. I mean, they pulled these guys out of mothballs. And they were wonderful actors, and I think everybody just had to pay their taxes, so they did all the beach party films.
Whatever you need to do.
But then they became classics.
Exactly, and that's what I'd love to do, the Turner Classic. I'd love to Frankie said yes, he would love to do it.
And count me in.
Yeah, Done.
How fantastic. And we've got to look for whoever else there is. And, Bobbie, when you're talking about those promotions around the country, was it true that you were on Johnny Carson as well?
I did a Johnny Carson show 5 times.
Awesome.
Oh,
And, he, loved having me on, and it was very fun for me to do. I'm laughing because I remember the first time, I never thought he'd invite me back, because the first time I went, I brought my little poodle, and he took a shit on the stage. And I said, okay, all right, I'm out of here. I'm sure they're going to whisk me away again. But they invited me back around 5 times. We did it 5 times. It was very
fantastic.
They really knew how to promote the films. But I love that you'll be part of this, Donna, and I'm going to pursue it, and I'd love for you to do the same too with Turner Classic, because I think it's important.
It is. I mean, it's still important to so many people. That era, the music, and the so-called innocence of the era that we were able to capture, and for people to relive over and over again. I get that all the time.
Yeah, me too. I can't believe it still got you. I know you get a ton of fan mail, and I get a ton of fan mail, and they just say it was one of the happiest times of my life.
That's right.
Like that. And we helped that. We helped promote that. So that was very cool.
You did.
I'll keep my voice in shape, and if you want me there, I'll be there, and I'll be wailing out some of those songs if you wish.
I think, if not just sitting and talking about, how movies were changed, how things got changed because young people didn't have a voice then. And we, we helped, even though a lot of it was bubblegum, we helped give that voice.
Absolutely.
That's a beautiful message.
What did you do after these? Where did you?
Thank you for asking. Well, you know that Dr. Pepper was involved in Beach Party films. And so my career was based on being the Dr. Pepper spokesperson.
Right.
And that's what I continued doing until I decided that I was going to retire and start a family. And that's what I did at 21.
Great.
And with you, Bobbie, you continued to do some acting after the Beach Party movies. I think you were in a film with David Carradine and Barbara Hershey.
I did. I still was under contract, and I walked out of my contract because I got tired of wearing a bikini and just being known for having a great ass and beautiful breasts and, big blue. I didn't want that anymore. And I said, you know what? Acting is really something that I'm really good at, and I knew it at a very young age. So I did a couple of independent films, one with David Carradine and the other one with a director by the name of Robert Pearson. And then after that, one of the executives from the Beach Party movies, from AIP, called me, and he said, a fellow by the name of Rob Reiner and Richard Dreyfuss, these young guys are starting an improv group. And they're looking for a young, pretty girl who can do comedy. And Bobbie, you're terrific at comedy, blah, blah, blah. And I went and I auditioned for it. And for 2 years, we were and I'm really proud of this, the first comedy, there was no improv on television.
Yeah.
We did the Steve Allen show, and we were before Saturday Night Live in Living Color. We were like the granddaddy of improv, and it was so great until we got kicked out of all the Playboy clubs because we were obscene.
I find that hard to believe.
No, I mean, I remember one night there was a row of ministers in the front row, and I'm wondering, like, why are these ministers here at the Playboy Club? And we offended them. Richard Dreyfuss, who went on to win an Academy Award, he and I fell off the stage, and we landed on the table of the front row of the ministers, and they grabbed their little bunny tail things and they left.
Why were they there in the first place? That's what I want to know.
What were they doing there in the first place? Yeah. But that was a very cool experience for me.
And
Reiner went on to win Academy Award, and Dreyfuss did. And Larry Bishop, Joey Bishop's son, was in the group. Yeah. And another gal who went on to do soap opera.
Fantastic.
And we just really paved I'm really blessed. I find myself being in the right place at the right time, and I never question it.
Mm.
Donna, you know what I mean?
I do know that, Bobbie, to
Because you're a
trust
very
the
spiritual
yes,
person.
yeah.
I was just going to ask you, Bobbie, then how did, from doing the improv, how did the acting school come about?
Well, I got married to a very famous rock and roll producer.
Yes.
And we were living in Malibu. Jerry Goldstein's his name. And we were living in Malibu. And I said, okay, I want to have a family. Wake up. Literally, okay, I'm ready to have a family now. And he said, I'm building an empire for you. I'm producing all these, Grammy songs and he said, I can't build an empire for you and have a family. I said,
Yeah.
okay, I love you. You'll be my friend for the rest of my life. Goodbye.
Wow.
And moved to Beverly Hills and went to the market. And there was a man standing across from me, and he picked up, this is amazing. He picked up a green apple and he says, excuse me, miss, can you tell me how do you know if it's ripe, if it's green? And I looked at him, I said, are you kidding me? I said, Adam got in a lot of trouble asking Eve, you want me to tell you? And we were married a year later.
Oh.
Perfect.
And we had 2 wonderful kids. And I got bored being, pregnant the second time. And he said, why don't you start coaching actors? So I did. And it
Great
became
move.
iconic. No, I mean, I never advertise. I wouldn't even do a website. I just I'm really old school like that. I just figured if something's really great and you're doing something with all the passion you got in your heart and soul, everybody's going to hear about it.
And Bobbie, that's exactly the principle that is carrying the new wave of entertainment today.
I think so.
Yes, it's the promotion is not instigating the success. It's word of mouth.
Exactly. I think the good stuff is always like that. So, I was at my studio. We got shut down because of COVID, but I was there for 30 years. I missed one time. I had to go to Miami because we had showcases. Donna, you came to one of our showcases.
Yes, I sure did. Thank you for inviting me.
The level of performances of these novice actors was just tremendous. It's called Hollywood Actors Showcase.
Who I've looked you up, of course, and seen some of the people who have walked through your doors. But tell us about who has come through your acting school in that time.
Well, a young actor who was very funny, but he was the first one there and the last to leave. He was amazing. Reynolds.
Fantastic.
Young Scarlett Johansson. And Scarlett was very plain. She wasn't the Scarlett we know today. She was almost a little shy, but she sucked everything up with such passion and such dedication.
Yeah.
And she became a powerhouse. And she hasn't really found her role yet, but she will.
Wow.
I'm sure she will. And let's see, everybody's been there. Anthony Hopkins was there, Andy Garcia, Jennifer Aniston. I mean, it was like and it was a funky little studio.
Yeah.
And it was like who's who in Hollywood every Thursday night for 30 years. There would be 10 or 15 directors, producers, casting people, agents sitting in the seats looking at these talent. And so many of our talent went on to become celebrities. And that's the kick. That is the kick for me, you all. That's what I love doing best, is taking actors and turning them into celebrities. That's the most fun for me.
How fantastic. And with your approach, I've read a little bit about your approach to acting. And
tell me about it. Tell me, because I don't know.
Well, now I've put myself in the hole, you know that. But I guess, you talk about not necessarily, of course, practicing and so on, but tapping into raw emotion. Is that correct? Or have I completely messed that up?
Yeah, raw emotion. That's it. I cannot tolerate any bullshit in front of the camera or on stage, because it is about raw emotion. and the actor has to be able to be selfless to get to that, and not think about themselves and how do I look, how do I sound, am I doing it good. They got to go all the way into the part, because that's all we really care about is the part. When we're watching a movie, we're not watching Nicole Kidman doing Nicole Kidman. Nobody wants to see that. We want to see the role.
You know, Bobbie, you're talking about no bullshit, and I think that's really your approach, isn't it? Whether we think about what you did on that TV studio back in the 60s, asking, well, why is this happening? Probably also how you had to deal with, and I'm interested in this because I know you and Donna had similar experiences with this, that you were young women working with predominantly middle-aged men, particularly the executives I'm talking about, and how you navigated that, because that must be difficult potentially.
Well, it was I remember having an experience, before this whole Me Too movement. I remember one of the people who were the head of the PR department there made a pass at me, and I was really naive. When I look back, I go, I don't even know how I survived. I mean, I was came from a very sheltered, loving, artistic, but very sheltered family, and I remember he made a pass at me, and I turned him down, and then he spread a rumor around about me, and it was just
wow, yeah,
this is not where I want to be.
And how fortunate that somehow you and I, we didn't know this about each other, but I also managed to, not be taken advantage of. And I so appreciate that in my brief career compared to yours. And I'm so grateful that, you could have that discretion to know I'm not being known for my body. I'm being known for my talent, and, and I'm going to be using my talent to teach others.
Yeah. And, I always tell, because my studio is famous for, it's young, beautiful, sexy talent. Most everybody that came through my doors was young and really attractive. I had very few character actors. And I always said to them, get by on your work. Always get by on your work. Give it everything you got to go home.
Yeah.
And it has to be like that. I have to tell you what I'm doing now, because
please.
It's everything that, how you look back at your life and you say, well, everything you've done got you to this point. Well, I've always had this vision, because for many years I've been coaching several actors from China. And so I was invited to go there and did a bunch of promotion for the Chinese government, but it didn't work out to go there. So it didn't work out. But now I'm working with some fabulous people. As a matter of fact, one of the women that I'm working with, and I love it because she's a woman, she owns the cotton industry in China.
Wow.
Oh my.
She's a self-made billionaire from a little tiny village. You know the story, and just pushed her way through. And so she is partners with Dr. Giannini, who is a friend of mine who started the Family Film Awards.
Right.
And there was a law passed because of him. There was a law passed in Hollywood that every studio and every TV network had to make 3 family films a year. And he pushed that through with Dick Clark, whom I'm sure you know, wow. Donna.
Oh, very well.
So he pushed that through. Anyway, so I am working with them now. We're just building a relationship and building a friendship and coming to an understanding. And my dream is to be able to go global with our acting studio, which is now called, my son is running, Richie Chance, and it's called RAW, R-A-W, right?
Fantastic. That's great.
Yeah, RAW. And which should give you a kind of an inkling what it's about.
Yeah.
But one of my visions is to be able to work with the Chinese actresses. And so that is one of my goals. So last week I gave out an award at the Beverly Hilton to the Justin Bieber of China.
Brilliant.
And so my relationship with them is one of trust and integrity, and it's growing. And I hope really by next year at this time that I'll be in China doing a 5-city tour to help set up acting studios and get the opportunity to work with the Chinese.
How amazing. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, because
I have to say, I'm going to call you a goodwill ambassador.
No, thank you. You know how each of us in our lifetimes were tapped on the shoulder, if we're fortunate, we're tapped on the shoulder to be able to have a vision to see where we fit in and what we're supposed to be doing. And I feel really blessed because I have been tapped on the shoulder, and that's what I'm working towards now. And it's slow, and I'm a very impatient person. I want it now,
But your timing is so impeccable now to engage, on a global level, and also to elevate the self-respect within the industry, and again transform the attitudes of the gender gap, and create more equality.
Yeah, exactly. That's what has to happen both here and globally. But so another way that we're doing that, I'm producing and starring we just finished shooting our TV pilot in a show called Acting with Hollywood Stars, like Dancing with the Stars, but Acting with Hollywood Stars. But it's not a game show.
Yeah.
And it's gritty and glamorous, and it's about young, beautiful talent from all over the world and what they have given up to get here and sacrificed, and have them work with celebrities who I have coached and those who I haven't coached to come on the show and give them pointers and help them in their journey, because you've got to give back. If you don't give back, what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah, the mentoring.
Yeah, and just, even just holding a candle in the darkness, a celebrity like Scarlett, Johnny Ribisi, and Ryan Reynolds, and Andy Garcia, who's been on my stage, and Anthony Hopkins, and Jennifer Aniston, all these wonderful people who have been at the right place at the right time and have a career going. Hold a candle to a young person who has no clue. They have no clue. They come out here with a big dream, and they have no clue what it takes to get to their goal. So we're doing this show called Acting with Hollywood Stars.
Great.
And it's my work, and also, I guess, the work of a higher power, whatever you want to say.
That's
fantastic.
It's always, within you and without.
Well said. And that's where I'm at right now. So we were so fortunate. We just signed contracts with Larry Namer. Now, Larry Namer, most people don't know his name, but he founded E! Entertainment, which is the number one entertainment station around the world. Do you get it in Australia?
We do get it. We do definitely get it.
Well, it's the number one channel in the world for entertainment. And Larry was the CEO, and he founded it. And we just signed him as our executive producer for our show.
How exciting for you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's very, very
That's
cool.
what we need, innovation and showing how people can reach their full potential.
Exactly. While making this world, because we all know that the arts heal.
Yes, absolutely. And particularly given what's been happening in the world in the last year, that is so true and so much needed more than ever. And it really sounds, Bobbie, like you have a lot of meaning in your life, which is just wonderful. That you've got stuff that you're working towards and stuff that really gives you that passion and that
I'm a maniac. I'm not just Pat. I'm a total maniac. I'm the first to admit it.
She's a maniac.
Yeah, that's me. I'm the one, because I just don't know how to get off the train. There is no getting off the train for me.
Well, we hope that
And
you don't. We hope that you keep going and doing wonderful things. And we do have to ask you, because the podcast, as you know, is called Love's a Secret Weapon. And I'm probably jumping in here to ask you, but what is your secret weapon then?
whoa, you mean just one?
Well, you can have a few. We're happy for you to have as many as you like.
Is this a multiple choice?
All of the above. You can.
All of the above. Put the little X's. To me, it's about, I don't know. I have a certain code that I live by, and I guess that's my secret weapon is truth and integrity and loyalty. I guess those 3 boxes can be checked in a row in that order.
They're pretty good boxes.
I second the emotion.
I mean, that's, people say to me, well, I've been married for 43 years now, and this man completely ruined my reputation. And he's like my 3rd husband, and I had 5 fiancés in between the 3 husbands. And people say to me, how could you stay married, for 43 years in a Hollywood relationship? Donna, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
I think the number one thing would be truth, would be
honesty.
That is hopefully an answer to your question, is that, we don't lie to each other ever.
Right.
And my kids are that way too.
That's right.
So Richie, if I may, Richie Chance's workshop is Richie with an IE Chance.com. And he's doing our work because he grew up doing it. He was on stage when he was 4, working at the studio and, just doing little fun little kid jobs, and just grew up around it all. And so he's taken over my studio, and it's on doing it on Zoom.
Right. Yeah.
And it's called Richie with an IE, RichieChance.com is the way to get in. And he's got actors from Belgium and Korea and Paris and London and, of course, Hollywood and all over that he's coaching. But that's too difficult for me. I'm like a touchy-feely person.
Yeah. Well, we hope that you can get back in the studio sooner rather than later. And we'll put Richie's details up on
that would be
website
lovely.
as well. Yeah, because that's brilliant, and just wonderful that even during COVID, he's able to teach through Zoom all over the world. How fantastic!
I know, it's sort of like a blessing in disguise. I mean, it's very, very cool. And I'm just doing private sessions with a handful of celebrities and actors right now. It's so funny because I don't think anybody accepting an Academy Award has ever said thank you to my acting coach, without whom I would not be here. Nobody has said that yet.
We have to change that.
So I think I'm going to have to grab one for myself from our show.
Please do. That's exactly right. It's like when Michael Douglas is in the Kaminsky Method and he gets up and wins the Emmy and he thanked his agent, but he didn't thank any acting coaches. You're right.
No.
We need to change that.
I haven't watched that show. I've been told to watch it, and I really like Michael Douglas a lot. But I heard it's very funny.
Alan Arkin too. They're hysterical.
Yeah, they're funny. They're very funny guys. My husband Loren Chance is writing a screenplay called I Love Hollywood.
Yes, right.
Which we're really excited about, and I want to direct it. And he's been a ghostwriter for a lot of years. And I said, why don't you write a movie for me, your wifey over here? And so he did.
That's great. Yeah.
And so we're working on that, but everything in this town has to start with a dream, right, Donna?
You manifest your dream. Absolutely.
I know you're so spiritual. I always love that about you.
Well, next time I'm in California, we must see eye to eye, please.
For sure. Done. Absolutely, for sure.
I want to just extend so much love and gratitude for you being in my life, and for you sharing your life with Dr. Adam and I and the world. And we wish you the greatest success.
Thank
And we
you.
hope your message pounds and multiplies and
Oh,
reaches so many. Just send out your love and send out your light, and hopefully this world is going to change. We're going to witness the change.
yes, thank you. That's what we're working towards, and the right people are all coming in for our project, and it's really amazing when things are guided. I truly believe this, when things are guided out of spirit, without getting too schmaltzy here. When things are guided out of spirit, it's almost like you don't even have to push. It's just sort of like
it's effortless.
It's effortless. Yeah, it's effortless. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for something, because I'll never forget that you did this. A couple of, I guess maybe 5 years ago, one of our charities is the free arts for abused kids. So I had a couple of extra beach blanket bingo posters around, and I reached out to Donna and I said, they're having an auction and to help raise money for the free arts for abused kids that are, being protected in safe houses all over LA. And I said, Donna, I said, would you come up to my studio? And I hadn't talked to her for years.
Yeah.
And I said, would you come up to our studio and maybe we could sign it and film it that we're signing it, and we'll give it to Free Arts and they'll auction it off. Well, I think they got, I want to say $1,500 just for the one poster that we both signed.
That's right.
They were so thrilled, and hopefully we'll be able to do that again in the future.
I am all in for.
But I just love that out of the blue you just responded so quickly.
Well, when hearts are connected, time is irrelevant.
Yeah, it really is. There's like no space. Well, we're getting all
lovey-dovey,
for clumped.
Well, this is wonderful, and wonderful for the Beach Party fans. They are going to love this, and we
love the Beach Party fans. It's a whole generation of wonderful people that grew up with our movies, and I'm sure I can speak for Donna as well. We love the fans, and Donna, one of these times that you do, I've been invited so many times to do like autograph signing things and fly all over the country, but I have always turned it down. Because something else is always going on. But one of these times, if you do that, let's do it together.
Oh, that sounds beautiful.
That would be fun for me if you were there.
I'd love to be with you. I'd love to.
That would be a fun thing. And I have like hundreds of pictures, like hundreds of them in my office. So anyway, I want to thank you guys for inviting me to be on your podcast, and blessings to all of you and all the fans that listen in. And thanks so much for inviting me to talk about my adventure.
Oh,
fantastic. Thank you,
We
Bobbie.
appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay. Bye. Bye
Until
from
next time.
California. Bye, love.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
sweetheart. Bye, darling.
Yes,